All right, so this current turmoil in the banking system, it really, for some people, seems to have come out of left field. But to be honest with you, it has been building for a long time. And I think of a quote from Ernest Hemingway, right? The sun also rises. How did you go bankrupt? Two ways, gradually and then suddenly. So all of a sudden, banks are in trouble and officials are trying to fix things up. Maybe they should have caught a long time ago. I'm going to bring in now the Kobeissi letter, editor-in-chief, Adam Kobeissi. And Adam, so yesterday we found out that the Federal Home Loan Mortgage, the Federal Home Loan Banks issued $304 billion last week. $304 billion. This thing was designed during the Great Depression. I mean, this is by far a record to meet liquidity demands. I mean, is something smoldering beneath the surface?
I mean, look, there was a panic, right? And all these regional banks needed liquidity immediately. And this program was actually established for the smaller banks. But it is, like you said, it's 100 years old. And we've been in the camp that the Fed and the FDIC, they need to back all deposits in the country, at least temporarily, because this is a product of human behavior. It started with bad management, putting money into long-term treasuries that caused a loss at SVB. But now it's just human behavior. It's panic. So if you get the backstop of the U.S. Treasury, you can seize that panic and just get back to normal.
Yeah, but what would that cost? I mean, this is $344 billion. That was a lot of money. But if you covered every single bank deposit,
right?
I know theoretically it should stop runs on the bank, right? Why would you have a run on the bank if your money was okay?
Right.
But what if the banking system imploded? Who would pay that bill?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the bigger risk is that this banking system really can implode if this bank run doesn't stop. And I think it's kind of a lesser of two evils. You either take the short term, back all the deposits, and it will be a costly thing, or you take the longer term route of we let this play out, and then you risk the whole system starting to cave in. I think it's better to kind of minimize your losses and just stop this now while we can.
If they can, because the other parts of this also, right? I mean, if your bank is not giving you like 2%, 3%, 4% on your savings rate, they got to compete against money markets. They got to compete against CDs. A lot of these small banks just simply aren't positioned.
And that's exactly what happened. These banks only keep a fraction. It's called the fractional reserve system, right? They only keep a fraction of deposits. Now you can get a 6-month CD paying 5%, and then you had the bank run come in, and then everyone wants their capital right away. Well, what are you going to do? You can't pay the money out. So we definitely, look, once we solve the near-term issue, and that needs to be solved, we can start looking further out and saying, how can we avoid this from ever happening again? We need some new measures in place to avoid this kind of situation.
Yeah, and I think greater accountability from bank officials, regulatory officials, and everyone else involved. Let's talk about the big picture from your point of view. S&P 500, you're bearish right now. What's up with that?
Yeah, so this was something we kind of initiated over the last few days. We think the Fed is actually going to raise 25 basis points tomorrow, and it seems like we've pivoted way too quickly. I mean, the Fed funds rate expectations went from going to 6% to cutting rates in 2 months. We think more of a middle ground is going to be reached, and that kind of leads into our short gold and short bonds.
So you're bearish. So the market's going down. People won't go into gold as a safe haven?
I think we need a pullback. Does that mean over the next 6 months we can't see gold go higher? No, but I think we got in short at 1990 last week, and we think this will go back towards 1900 before the next leg up can start.
You're bearish on the S&P 500 and TLT bonds. So it's almost like outside of crude oil, there's no place. Again, we're going back to that scenario in your mind where there's no place to hide.
Yeah, I mean, over the short term, I just think you have, the Fed. We've been telling subscribers, we don't think the Fed's going to pivot that suddenly. I mean, it's going to be, we think a 25 bips hike will happen, and you could pause for a little bit, but it's not going to go from a 25 bips rate hike in 1 week to cutting rates 100 bips in 2 months. It's not going to happen. So we think, look, the S&P, more volatility over the near term. It will see some more downside, and that also plays into the Fed raising rates, gold and bonds pulling back a bit, and then we can start to look into, well, the real volatility might come into the summer, right? And that will push bonds and gold higher.
But right now, this is you're just more cautious than anything else.
We are. We're very cautious, and the crude play is interesting because we think actually crude oil prices got caught up in all of this. We have a rather bullish backdrop for crude, but it got caught up as a risky asset. So there are some unique opportunities within this market.
Adam, thank you so much, my man.
Thank you.